right, today is March 31st, 2021. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. Let's go down our release agenda. First up is Kubernetes 119. We're just waiting on the CSI proxy build promotion. I think Jing has reached out to the infra folks to figure out how we can do this. So I think we're just waiting on hearing back from them. I'll continue to poke for some updates there. Next is 121. I believe today is the docs deadline, and we should be in good shape for everything. I think everything we need to have docs for is done. So I think we're good to go there. I want to start also looking at preparing, releasing all our sidecars. So I have our list here from the last release, but let's go down our feature status first. First we have snapshots.
I think Grant is working on that PR, changing update to patch. I think he has some issues. So yeah, I'll need to check with him again. So right now it's still work in progress.
Okay, sounds good. Next up, we have storage capacity.
Looks like Patrick's not here. There are 2 remaining PRs outstanding for external provisioner. I'm currently reviewing. There's one for proactively updating storage capacity objects after provisioning and delete. I'm taking a look at that right now. And there's another one for updated volume reference handling that I still yet have to take a look at. That'll be coming up.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Next up, we have volume populators. It's been around. We will get an update from him when he's back. Next, we have volume expansion. I guess Hamat is not here. I guess Jan or Christian, would you happen to know where we are with expansion?
I think we are at the same place like last time. I'm pretty sure that Heman didn't do anything there.
Okay. I guess, are there any changes we're waiting for in the resizer to do a release?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Next we have volume health.
So yeah, I think the doc PRs merged. So the other thing is Ren is working on removing the agent. I think he got some test issues trying to figure out, but it's work in progress.
Okay. Cool, thank you. All right. So that's it for the 121 remaining work that we're tracking. I guess let's start planning for doing sidecar releases. I think, when is the 121 release date?
April 8th, is that?
April 8th. So that's a week from now. I guess, yeah, we'll see. Let's try to target starting to release some sidecars then. Let me add this to our schedule. Okay.
Sorry.
Let's start. Yep.
Just really quick, when should these releases be done by?
I think it would be, we're trying to aim to release our sidecars around the same time that Kubernetes gets released. It's more of a guideline, not really a strict requirement, but I think we should definitely start getting the ball rolling.
Oh, do you update the dependencies? I thought last time we kind of updated dependency before the release.
Oh, I
What is
mean,
the current, I forgot what is it 1.10?
it's probably still on 120, but I
Okay.
guess, do we have other than the storage capacity stuff? I don't think there's new APIs that we depend on for 120 or 121.
Like there is no strong need to rebase the clients, but unless we do rebase them, then it starts lingering after Kubernetes client go, and I don't like that much.
Okay, so then let's target updating, update Kubernetes dependencies.
So SIG provisioner is at the beta one, it's 21 beta one. Do we want to wait until a formal 21 is cut and then update, or do we want to do it before that? Get some beta
we
or
could
something?
Do it.
RC, do you have?
I think the final release should be with the GA libraries, but we can like prepare and see what's changed with the beta.
Yeah, I doubt there will be significant changes between beta and GA.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should we? Well, this is probably not the latest beta one, right? Maybe there was a newer one than this now. They really keep changing. What is the latest? Let's see what. Oh, beta. Oh, no, the RC0. That looks like the latest 1.21. There's RC0. Do you want to go with that one?
For testing, definitely. Like it's a good start. Just to go get the shoe with that, and like prepare PR, check it if it compiles. And maybe review the PR, but just before we release it, we should bump it. Before merging the PR, we should bump it to the GA version.
Yeah, if that's
okay.
We have that one. When we bump it, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go down our sidecar list. For external provisioner, Chris has volunteered to take a look at this. So I will put his name down here. Thank you very much. Attacher, Jan, do you want to continue to look at this? Thank you. Resizer, I'm going to put down Hamont's name.
Or I can do that.
Ping him. Okay. Snapshotter, Xing, I will put your name down.
Yeah, it's fine.
No driver registrar. I took a quick look at it and I didn't find anything there. The only updates we made were for the CI release tools. So I don't think there's a release we need to do. So I will just say there's no release here. Same story for liveness probe. There's no changes. External health monitor. Xing, do you also want to take a look at this?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Cool. A CSI proxy. I think Jing is going to take a look at this. They're planning on doing a GA release. HostPath Driver.
It has been released this week, actually, to fix some Patrick's tests. So we have pretty fresh release.
I guess do we need
any Kubernetes dependencies?
There's the capacity stuff. I don't know if Patrick, if the latest release includes all of the capacity stuff that Patrick was doing.
I think it should.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any additional HostPath stuff that needs to go in. But also he did mention that one of his colleagues is working on combining CSI mock driver into the HostPath driver. Is that something we want to include here, or probably not ready yet?
Yeah, I mean that, I think we could wait for that. I don't know if we need to do an immediate release for it, but actually did we update? We need to update HostPath driver with all the new sidecars that we're going to release. So we will need to do another update, I think, for the HostPath driver. But it has to wait till all the other sidecars are done. That's fine. CSI Test. I don't know if we have changes there. It looks like just release tools updates. So maybe nothing we need to do here either. Oops. And libutils. I think we should have gotten everything. Yeah, this looks
Does
like
Util need to
release
update for
tools.
1.21 as well?
I mean, since this is a library, it's transient. Like the actual repo that imports libutils, it's gonna use whatever Kubernetes version is specified in the repo itself. It's not gonna use any version that's specified in the library.
Okay.
So I don't think there's anything.
Do we update
we
after
need
this?
here.
I mean, do we need to update all sidecars to use the latest lib, or is that already done? Do we know?
That should have already been done, I think.
Okay.
Well, where's the change log? There is some metrics changes and a default log level. I guess we can double check.
Okay.
Let me add that to the list of things. Update. All right. I think that's all I'm tracking for our components. Is there anything else? Any other repos that I forgot about? Cool. All right. So that's it for tracking 121 work. Anything else regarding 121 that anyone wants to discuss? All right, let's go to miscellaneous topics. Chris brought up the question about a major version support policy. So he opened up an issue. We've had some discussion on it. I think we have some quorum here. We can continue discussing. I guess I haven't actually read through Jan's response. Jan, do you want to summarize your response here?
Yeah. All right. So what I would like to propose is, of course, to have as little as supported versions that as possible, but at the same time to give like storage vendors one or two versions that they need to worry about. Like ideally, they should have just one version of the sidecar supporting all current Kubernetes versions. So for the current release branch, we have like 3 months policy that we support the older releases in that branch. And when we release new minor release, like major major release, I would support the old major release only like for 6 months to give storage vendors time to upgrade, but then I would just focus on the main branch only.
Mm-hmm.
Understandable.
When you talk about I think there's one thing, I guess that's the mainly why we have this issue here is, let's say, right, so let's say you have example here is 3.0, let's say 3.0 is the latest major release. We also have 2.0, that's a previous major release. I think the major question here is after we cut 3.0, and then the latest minor release is, let's say, okay, you have Y here, 2.Y here, that's the latest. Do we want to do a 2.Y plus 1 after 3.0 is released? I guess that's the question, I think. Did you answer that here?
No. We don't need to release it. We can, but we don't need to. Like the old branch is still supported for 6 months. But if there is no bug fix to fix, then we don't need to release anything.
So yeah, even there's
I guess what about like features that don't actually depend on the major release? So like the actual example we have here that kind of spawned this question is we wanted to backport the metrics changes that were added in 4.0?
That's a 4.0,
yeah, there were metrics changes included with 4.0 that don't actually depend on the V1 API, but we want to backport those metrics changes to 3.0, but technically it's not really a bug fix, it's a new addition, so that would mean we need a new minor version release rather than a patch version.
I would not backport features, because then you start backporting everything. And you never get
but I guess the problem is that the things like metrics are kind of required for beta. And the fact that we don't have a beta version of our components that don't have metrics is kind of an issue when we're trying to promote things, introduce things as GA. I think that's one question. And
so do we want to
technically
use the production readiness
like,
as a, just talking about
yeah,
like things are required in production readiness review? Maybe those are, even though they are feature, maybe we can make an exception for that.
Yeah, that might be one thing, one like exception we can make. I guess the other thing though is say like, you know, with 4.0, the minimum version is 1.20, but technically as a Kubernetes project, we still support to Kubernetes version 118, which means that we would still have to support 3.0 for some time, since 4.0 cannot work with older Kubernetes versions.
Yeah, 3.0 is supported, but not. It works as it was working in 118. Like, there were no metrics and nobody complained.
Sorry, I didn't get what you were saying.
Like the 3.0 version is still supported, but it did not get the metrics because like they were not needed at the time.
It was not added. We didn't add that until in 4.0, basically. Well, we will actually, well, if we decide if we actually release like a 3.0 dot something, then we don't have this part, right? But we bumped the major version of that. So yeah, otherwise it would be like 3 dot something, right? But I think because of all the API changes, we decided should be like a major release.
Yeah,
and also
that's fine.
And also I think the time between the 4.0 release and the 3 dot some release is like just like 3 months or something. It's pretty close. So that's another problem. Like if we're cutting major release so often, that means like we need to support more major releases. So okay, so let's go back to this.
Be overlap if major releases support. That's okay. There is nothing bad with that. We can't avoid it.
So yeah, okay, that's the second question. I mean, but right now we're dealing with this too, right? So do we want to make an exception, just saying, okay, the first one is in the time, it's kind of close. And then second one is the metric is kind of required for production readiness. So do we want to make an exception saying in this case, we do an additional minor release on a previous major release? And it's a little weird, but do we want to? But if we do that, I think we do need to document this. That's in this case where this is a condition that we can make this exception. But of course, we try not to do that many releases if not required.
Yeah, I think that's fine in this case because I also don't. I don't want to get into the business of having to like support so many releases. So I think I'm okay with like, instead of having a blanket policy, we make it exception based. I do think we need to consider adding some sort of clause to limit the number of major releases that we do.
Now
because
it's like even like RBAC, we will need to add a major release, right? So and this one we released that not too long ago, right? 3 months ago. So yeah, like how many major releases do you want to support at the same time? Yeah, definitely. I think we need to have some clear rule, like what do we do with that? Now, sounds like we're going to bump the major release very often.
Sorry, just I want to make sure I'm on the same page here. So because we are somewhat coupled to the Kubernetes release cycle, we're going to be responsible for 4 or 3 major versions. Is that correct?
So I think a lot of the time we try not to, we don't necessarily bump the major version every time a Kubernetes version is added because there might, we might not need or require any of the changes in the latest Kubernetes versions. The only time we update the major version is if there is some like hard requirement on the new version So I think in the best case, we will support, since we're kind of regularly doing releases once a quarter, which lines up with the Kubernetes release, that ends up being about supporting 3 releases at a time, just from the 1-year support policy we have. I think the question here is that's for minor versions, but then now we should also, if we factor in major versions, that potentially increases the number of branches we have to support, since each major version will have their own sort of minor release schedule. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Because here we only show the latest minor release, right? So are you saying which means we always only support the last one? Are you saying we support 2, or how many do we support? How many minor?
So
2 or 3?
This was a new change that we made when I updated this page. But I updated our support page to say that every minor release is going to be supported for a year. So actually all these tables need to be updated to show some of the intermediate minor branches.
If someone test in order, let's say we show 2.1.4, someone is using 2.1.2, let's say it's still supported, and then they found a bug, but then we can just ask them to move to the next, right? Because that's probably already fixed in 2.1.4, right? So when you're talking about support,
yes,
so they have to move up anyway, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. But you're saying that we need at least at 2. So
we probably need did we have a 3.1 or something?
So these 3 here, these 3 minor here. Yeah, so this what we have. We have all the way, and we are going to have a 2.1.5 as well. So
I guess when did we release 2.1.0 is the question.
That I don't remember. I have to go check. I don't remember. So yeah, but this is like a major release. How long do we want to still support this?
Yeah. So technically, we released 2.1.0 almost a year ago, which means that it's going to fall out of our support policy.
Okay.
So we, in 3 days, we will no longer have to release things on the 2.1.
We are actually about to release the 2.1.5. We should
sure
do that this week. That's next week that will not be supported anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 2.1.5 will be the last patch release we do for the 2.1 branch.
All right. So okay, going back there. So we probably need to add those. Basically, for each major release, we probably list 3. That means in this table, we'll have like 9 entries for 3 major release. But we can remove 1 dot something and 0 dot something, right? Like the last 2 rows.
Yeah, these 2 like
too old.
We can like mark it as like not supported anymore or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm wondering why did you say 9?
Oh, you're saying we need to support 3 minor releases for each major release, right? So that means we need to list 2.1.4 and also 2.1.3 here. Are you saying we only list the last one, but we support?
I think not necessarily. So like the support policy says we'll support a minor release branch for a year.
Okay.
So
basically, so we probably don't have to list all of them here, because otherwise this table is we can list the latest, but then they can go to our release page to find out.
Yeah.
when that was.
But yeah, I guess I think what I was trying to say was, say if given a single minor version, if all we did was release in the same major version, then and we released once a quarter, that would end up being about 3 releases for that major version. But once we add another,
we don't, that's always like as needed, right? We don't really go periodically release those, right? Patch release. It's only there's a bug, backport or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought as to where we are. Did we answer the question, Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to check in. So are we planning on making an exception then in the one case of production readiness?
Yeah, I think we can use production readiness as an excuse.
I think
as a condition, saying otherwise, you know, because we don't want all the we don't want to be doing this too often, right? It's kind of hard to maintain. So let's say if we do this, right? Then should we also backport all the other, since we're doing a minor release, then we should be try to backport all the bug fixes at least to this new minor release, right?
yes.
Okay. So that
I mean, they should have the bug fixes already make it into 3.0.
Not necessarily. I know there was one that didn't. Okay, I maybe I need to check. I thought there was something. I thought someone was asking me something, but maybe I need to double check. There was like a requeue thing. Maybe it's already there. I have to double check.
Okay.
Like some of the bug fixes may be a little tricky to backport, but I'll take a look and see if that's actually for this or is that for earlier release, because I did get some question on the Slack about a particular fix, which is kind of like a refactor fix, which I thought it would be difficult to backport. But if we're doing a minor release, maybe we at least have to take a closer look of that one.
I can create a PR for improving or clarifying the statement, and then I guess we can defer to conversation in the code review.
Okay. Let's see. Let me try to summarize everything we've discussed. Okay, so we won't, so creating a new minor version on older majors is going to be exception based. In this particular scenario, the exception is so that we can meet PRR requirements that were added by the Kubernetes project at a later time. I think there is still something we should add about supporting older majors, but I guess do we think this is covered already by the policy that we have?
So that's what, like 1 year or something. I have to go read. What does it say?
Yeah, we said Yeah, every minor release is supported for a year, and also there is at least 3 months overlap between the last minor and the next minor, like whether or not that's actually in the same major, I think is,
So
I
how
think
do
it's
we
implied.
how do we move? Yeah, I was just thinking like we might need to cut another major release, right? Just think about that. That's again like in 3 months we cut another major release. So does that
Yeah,
mean
so I think we should have
survival?
maybe a new, we should have a new clause to limit the number of major releases that we do.
Yeah, so how do we limit? So what is the, let's say if we see, okay, we made this change, looks like we need to cut another major release, but do we defer it because it's just too often, or like how soon is too soon? Because so for example, right, let's say if we get to fix that a patch issue, that means in 3, or in this case 4 months, in 4 months we're cutting another major release. Is that too soon? We want to slow that down, or what how do we decide?
It's a good question.
I don't think we can limit the number of major releases, because if we add a new feature and we may need new RBAC and we may need to release new major, and it can happen with every quarter.
That's true.
So for like new features though, like new features should be mostly opt-in, right? So if we have to add a new RBAC for an opt-in feature, that doesn't require a major version bump. If we have to add a new RBAC for like a core feature that you
like
can't
in this
turn
case,
on or
patch
off,
would be
then
did you add whatever you said? Is that in that doc already? In that driver doc already? Like the RBAC, like the RBAC, if it's opt-in and some, is it the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we said new RBAC
Okay.
requirements that are not opt-in.
Okay. Yeah,
and here's
delay
our
that.
sort of
I was thinking we can delay, even though we may actually may still have a problem of fixing that actually right now. I think we have some issues we need to. Seems like the patch seems like they have some issue getting that to work for CRDs actually. So so maybe we don't get time to fix that anyway before we cut it. So we can decide.
I guess the main thing, I think the main thing is we want to strike a balance, right? For in terms of like our velocity, but also we want to make sure as the consumers are not like hurt by this. So like I guess that's the thing. Like we should be able to release major versions as we need to, but we also need to keep in mind that releasing major versions means that it's more burden on our consumers, and we need to do something to ease that burden, such as potentially supporting like 2 major branches with minor versions or something like that for some period of time.
Yeah, but sometimes, a lot of times when we make this type of change, it's actually a bug fix. Like for example, the the patch, right? It's actually, in theory, that is actually a bug fix, because we got those updates, conflicts, right? Yeah, so it's kind of tricky. If we don't fix it, then user will see those bugs. But then we fix it, and that means they have to change that back. So I mean, I don't know which one is better. Okay.
So just throwing some ideas out there. Ultimately, we want to reduce the toil and minimize the number of upgrades that customers have to deal with. So I think I see like 2 dimensions, 2 directions in which we can fix this. One is to actually reduce the number of limit the number of major releases, and limit the number of major releases that are being supported at that time. And the other is to like improve the maybe improve the tooling to reduce toil from our engineering standpoint. I don't know how feasible that is. Also, another way to reduce the number of major versions that we support at a time is to lower. I don't know if this is something we want to do, but an option is to reduce the support window. And then on the toil, reducing toil side, my understanding is that a lot of the toil comes from the releasing and testing, at least from our standpoint. Is there any tooling, or how difficult would it be to implement tooling to simplify those processes? Are those the concerns?
I definitely have a concern about the toil side there. I just picture like if a new bug fix needs to come out, that needs to get cherry picked into multiple branches and tested. Like it would be nice to be able to automate something like that. If we have more bugs afterwards, we have to keep doing the same work. But is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I was thinking about that in relation to reducing toil from major releases, but also like a tool like this will in general reduce toil for all kinds of releases with our sidecars.
Got it.
Yeah, I think the main concern is the testing part. I think even today, we don't test all of the supported combinations that we do have. So I think the more branches we have to support, it's the more things that are, the more combinations that we don't have testing for, which also makes actually releasing these components a little harder, because if we don't have automated tests for them, then that means we have to do more manual tests to verify some of these changes.
Yeah, one possibility for that would be to have automated test job generation scripts. I think one downside.
We do, but I think it doesn't really handle well the fact that you can have multiple legal sidecar versions. So, like, I can show you, we have about 10 different jobs, and we test the different permutations on different Kubernetes versions, but I think the actual number of sidecars, the sidecar releases that we test are not reflected here, I think. I think if we look, why can't I find it? What is it called? So the way that we choose which sidecar versions that we test is we have 3 versions of the HostPath driver in our repo, and that's where the version gets tested. And I think the challenge is that because every sidecar has its own release cadences, and some sidecars might release something and some sidecars may not release something, it might be difficult to sort of generate all of the different permutations we want. I think that's the main challenge there.
I think with some engineering, it's probably maybe doable to listen on GitHub APIs to get notified on different releases, maybe. But yeah, it does get complicated.
Yeah, because especially like if it's a major version difference, then that potentially implies that like something else needs to change in the driver to support it. Like they might have to change some flags, or the driver might have to implement something differently. So I think it will be a bit more complicated. But I mean, definitely, I think that's sort of one of the reasons why today supporting these versions is difficult. I think definitely if we can think about possible improvements to make that easier, then I think that could eliminate sort of that roadblock.
Mhm. And also maybe the release process itself, like the cherry picks and all that, in addition to testing improvements.
I don't see the release process right now as being like the most burden right now.
Mhm.
I think the testing gaps is the biggest risk that we have for being able to support more versions. Okay, so I think conclusion here is we don't want to limit the number of major releases that we do. Is that right?
I think it's hard to limit it because that means what we have a new feature added in, let's say 1.22, but we don't want to release it or something, or
I mean, so like new features I think need to be opt-in, right? So
okay,
we can always
so,
still add in new opt-in features.
So okay, so basically this is more about like fixing a bug that requires a change in the core, but then that also requires a RBAC change, right? So like the patch change is one example, and then I know there are other examples, like there's one change that Rona did in the provision. I think it was something we added some informer, make RBAC changes, those type of changes, or bug fixes. I mean, if we limit that, then that also means we don't fix that bug, right? So
yeah,
it's getting tricky.
yeah. So I think that's fine. I guess okay.
So what is the number of?
I guess the question is like, are there any bug fixes? So it sounds like the like biggest problem is the RBAC changes, right? Like
yeah, that seems to be, yeah,
like changing something like the minimum Kubernetes version, that doesn't happen as frequently. Like usually to fix a bug, we usually don't have to increase the Kubernetes version.
Yeah. RBAC seems to be more often, that's an issue because we try to not give that, if it's not necessary, we don't really add this RBAC rule, right? So only when we need it for a particular bug fix, we add that, but then that becomes a breaking change. So
yeah. So like maybe something we should consider is maybe RBAC changes should be an exception, and we don't actually increase the major version if there's an RBAC change.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
This needs to be clearly communicated that the people need to update their YAML files.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways. Like, we increment the major version as a way to signal to people that, hey, you might need to change something in your driver or in your deployment. So if we want to make RBAC changes an exception to that, then we need some other way to communicate that, hey, RBACs might change as well. But if say like we do make RBAC changes an exception, then potentially that would allow us to be able to restrict the number of major releases that we do per year or something like that.
Should we add a suffix to the versioning?
I think we want to stick with semantic versioning.
As for communicating RBAC changes, is that just something that we can notes or?
Yeah, we can potentially like, put it in the release notes, but I guess it would technically be under like potential breaking changes there. So we would have to, I think people might question, why are you putting something in a breaking change here, but not incrementing the major version? Okay. Well, anyway, I think we are well over time and this might need some further thought. So let's sit on this and we can continue discussing on that.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Thanks everyone for staying late.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye.